to call this special called board meeting of the Carroll County Board of Education to order on March 24th, 2026. I'd like to welcome our guests as always. We're always happy to have visitors here. This time we'll rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I want to thank everybody for being here this afternoon. It's unusual, and so we got all our whole board here. And today we're here to start the discussion on process for superintendent selection. As everybody knows, we last Thursday night, upon Mr. Cowart's retirement, that's the next thing in the process, and I did provide everybody with a letter earlier on some different options of ways we can go. So it was decided we would start this today. So what I thought was we could start with discussion and allow everybody a chance and opportunity to talk if they like, and then we'll go from there. We didn't mean to make you mad.
Did I have one?
They chose to.
That's fine.
Oh.
You want to review, Chairman, you want to review our options as presented from us? You want to just sort of give us a...
So there's basically about three ways that we could go, and there's numerous ways. The way it says, I mean, we could conduct a search. It says right here with several entities to assist in the search. You know, you could go GSBA, private entities, these kind of things. There's a lot of flexibility. And then the letter says an increasing number of boards are finding when the need arises that the choice seems obvious as to them as they have someone within the district that's been groomed for the job. So you could, thus, there is no search, but just the process of agreeing with this, that would be the right person, and then negotiating with that person to see if he or she would take the position. There can be many variations in between, such as it says, boards sometimes have several internal candidates, multiple internal, and they're confident one of them should be given the job to ensure continuity for various reasons. In that situation, the search could be limited to candidates within the district. This search could be limited in the same way to just candidates in Georgia or Southeast, or broadened up to nationwide. It says the one statute does come into play is the Open Records Act, which protects the confidentiality of all applicants or documents from any applicant until a board chooses as many as 3 persons for consideration. At that point, the board announces those 1, 2, or 3 applicants, and all records for those applicants will become subject to production to the press and the public before taking that step. So, skipping on down, you would have to have 14 days after you selected either the one candidate or the multiple down to 3. You have to have that posted 14 days before we would come back and meet and make that decision. So a lot of different steps. I kind of I just kind of went an overview that obviously the attorneys, if we come up with questions tonight, at any time they're available for us to get clarification and those kind of things. So hopefully that helps somewhat.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I don't know how to get this started, but I know we had talked about following this process. Again, as a suggestion to kind of open discussion, get things started. I'd like to see us do something in a short window time frame.
Right.
I don't know, it doesn't specifically say in the letter that you sent us if we were to go with, and I'll just reference GSBA, do they have a standardized time frame? Bart, I don't know if you would know, or Dr. Brooks, if you would know.
I actually, so I did check with a couple other people. One is a board chair in another school system that they have gone through, since he was on the board twice, where they replaced superintendent. One was through a GSBA search, which took them about 5 months to do the search. Ironically, they did the search, and this is a much larger system than us, about twice the size of us. And they came back because of, and here's what he told me. He said because of the scope of their system, they actually went with their CFO, which was their number 2 in the end. The next time this guy retired, they did not go with GSBA. They went with a more streamlined and chose from candidates
Within,
within the system. But the GSBA, he said, took them about 4 to 5 months to get that search.
I assume
I don't know if that's typical, but
I'm assuming they charge a fee.
they do. They do.
Nothing's for free, is it? Okay.
salvation.
Mr. Chair, I think that, number one, I don't think we're going to have any, if we decide to go with outside candidates, I don't think we're going to have any trouble with folks wanting to apply. I think, as well, I say it's some of both. You got some that would be possibly intimidated to apply, and then you have those that I think that may be in the wings that may be ready to apply. I don't see, for me personally, any reason to use GSBA to do that process, especially if we've got attorneys, if we have to rely back on them and go back to them. We've got a great relationship with them. They're very sharp. They've been great, attentive, and quick response to us, even with this question. And so I feel like that we don't need GSBA, in my personal opinion, to open a search and then to be able to review that, especially if we got access to some folks that if we need some guidance that can help us and direct us. I'd almost be, my personal opinion would be to maybe as a starting point and just see what everybody thinks is maybe just open it up to internal candidates and see if we have any and allow the process to take its place. And I don't know that we need a whole lot of time. I think continuity is important, and we need to be rolling to keep our people confident, and we can always open it back up if we were to have a problem.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Turner. Others?
Did you say that it would take about 5 months?
No, I didn't. I said it took them about 5 months.
Oh, them, okay.
When they went with the GSBA.
I'm just thinking about our stakeholders. Perhaps we could have a meeting in each of the clusters to get comments. Just comments, because our people do a good job of letting us know how they feel about various things. So if we could do that in a short period of time and pull some information in, I think in the past what we've done is this. We've made the decision without pulling our stakeholders, our taxpayers in, and then when we falter, then, some might say, well, we were here, but you never asked us.
Okay.
That's just a comment.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Anybody else?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and say Bryant's idea made more sense to me than anything. We've been knowing this was going to happen, and, we've sort of been planning for this to happen. We've got people in place. We've got great staff, and I absolutely would not want to hire a team to do it because we're all professionals. We know how to do this stuff. And so I would be totally against it, especially if we have to pay somebody. Continuity is important. It's a precious time of year. Everybody's anticipating getting out of school, finishing up, and graduating. And I think we just need to move ahead, think about it, and take advantage of the great staff that we've got in place now and see who's interested, but move quickly on it.
Okay.
Getting all of us together at cluster meetings again, and we just finished that. It's hard to get us all together at cluster meetings. So I love the ideas, and I've even gotten phone calls from people in my community, So I'm gathering that information. Have you gotten any?
Oh, yeah.
And but I agree with Brian. We need to move ahead.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
so to me, the expediency of it is not so much a concern to me as it is getting it right and getting the right person. So I'll meet there in the middle and say, if we feel like we have at least 3 people that are viable candidates in our system, I'm okay with that and just advertise within the system. But I think we'd lead at least 3 candidates and then have, like, I think Mr. Turner said, correct me if I put words in your mouth, if we go through that process and for some reason none of those three turn out to be what we want,
Right?
then we're open to not just settling on one of those because those were the 3 that put in for it, but we'd be big enough to step back and say, hey, we need to take a little bit longer look.
I agree.
Which that would always, I mean, that's a good point because that's always,
I just don't want to get
that's always an option,
I just don't want to
correct?
get pigeonholed, but also, I mean, I know there's some good people. I'm not going to call names, but like I told y'all the other night, I think those people deserve not a challenge from us, but they deserve, or our stakeholders deserve, for us to do our due diligence and to find out what style of manager they're going to be and how they're going to run this system. Not just because we know them and we think they're going to do a good job. I think they need to be able to articulate it. So I'm okay with doing it internally if we could get 3 I think we could get 3 candidates.
Okay. And obviously, I don't know that we would know that for sure until we posted it, but
Yeah, I agree with that.
Oh,
I think that makes the vetting process sound, far more professional, and not only that, making sure that we have covered our bases within the variety of that. My personal opinion on the, is from the community aspect, 100% respected to what Dr. Brooks is saying, totally. I sort of feel, for me, that's somewhat our job, to know our
Right.
constituents and to know our community, know our people, and to be able to bring that to the table in doing this. This really hasn't caught us by surprise, and I think just as you shared a minute ago, Dr. Brooks, we're hearing from our people already. I know I am, and I'm sure the rest of you are too. And I think that's sort of what we've been called and elected to do now, is to represent our people, and we ought to be pretty clear on where our folks stand. So I think that covers our bases there.
Yeah, and I'll back up one thing about me too. I wouldn't want to put it, advertise it internally, and then the word get out, or the rumor being that so-and-so is the top candidate before we ever even interview them.
Sure.
I'd rather have a level playing field and each person think they got just as much of a shot at it as the next
As the other.
person.
Sure.
Well, we need to have a clear and fair process, I think, and an open and honest search. And we do have to think about our integrity within the community because, there are people who are going to think, we want to make sure it's fair and above board. And, we're talking about transparency. We need to make sure we have that. And the community, it is important that they trust us. And, this is a very important decision. We don't need to rush it, I don't think either. I know we want to do it as quickly as possible, but we don't need to just be in a rush either. We want to make sure we're getting the right person.
okay, Mr. Grigger.
If we were to take this process, can I ask a question of Mr. Cowart, just from in the past I know he's been involved in other processes in advisory modes for outside. Is there, if we were to all agree and move this way, what is the timeline, or what have you seen as timelines to open that process up? So saying, we're going to advertise internally and open that process, how long do you give? What is the professional way of allowing people to apply? What does the timeline look like on the application time?
I think if you look internal first, which is basically what you're saying, is you see if you've got candidates internally that are, number one, interested, and then number two, that you want to interview. If you do that over a 2-week period, that's typically a pretty good time, because you're talking about people you get them in, you have those interview kind of conversations, and then you take the time that's needed to make a decision. Like Mr. Katie said, is there in that group a person that you're willing to say this is the person. If there is, then you can name them as a finalist or name two of them as finalists, and then you're into the window of time that carries
14.
14 days. However, to your question then, if you don't find that in that internal group that you find what you're interested in, then you take outside applications and you continue the process. So it's like a two-step process if you do it that way. But it still can move, in an expeditious fashion, but also you take the time that's needed. So if you go internal and you look at it and you don't determine that there's somebody that you want to move forward with,
Right.
then you take another couple of weeks to advertise to get applications in, get plenty of applications in, and then you would need a period of time where you would come vet those outside applications in a meeting where you just did nothing but look at the applications to determine which ones you would want to bring in, and then you would take another couple of weeks, and which is essentially why when you use an outside facilitated group, there's really two groups in Georgia. There's GSBA, and then there's another group that's kind of a private group that does the same work. I know both of them, they do it basically
I've
the
got
same.
emails from the other one, I think.
Yeah. They do basically the same process. That's why it usually takes them, 3 to 5 months, just depends. A lot of it depends on, what the district's looking for and what you give them as, criteria. So, again, as Mr. Miller said, you've got a lot of leeway, actually. It's almost like you don't have enough structure of what you got to do. But within that structure, if the board wanted to first consider internal candidates, I would suggest a couple of weeks to set that up, have conversations, and then at that point, you make a decision, if you got somebody you're interested in or you don't. And then if you don't, then we move to get outside applications over a 2 or 3 week period, and then you go through another 2 or 3 week period of vetting, interviewing, discussing, and moving on.
Let me take it a step further, because this is, other than you two, this is very much brand new for the rest of us. So when say we get to the interview process, do we consult with a facilitator, or would we have a kind of a, and I wouldn't say we wouldn't have freedom to ask, but we have a blanket way of us viewing questions that would be kind of uniform to keep things on task, or how does that work? I've done interviews with panels many times, and there's different ways. How would we facilitate that? And I guess I'm asking the board, is there a certain way to facilitate the interview?
Well, I think the last time the board gave the chair and the vice chair the opportunity to interview. Now,
Okay.
you may want everybody.
So they were the only ones in the interviews?
Mr. Cowart came to
no,
right over here and
but-
interviewed in front of us, the
Yeah.
whole board.
And that's what I was envisioning. So,
But
yeah.
we spoke with him first to see if there was an interest, and then came back, presented it to the whole
But
board.
that's a little bit different than posting it internally, so I think that's
Yeah,
what you're
that's-
talking about.
They were more prospecting to see if he was interested. I got what you're saying.
Mr. Chair, if I could offer just thoughts for the board's consideration. If you go with a facilitator like GSBA or the other group, part of what they do for you is they develop the interview process for you and the questions that are going to be asked, and they act as the facilitator to guide the board through that. That's part of what you're paying them to do, as well as vetting.
Well, we can do that internally ourselves.
Yeah.
is what- Yeah.
So where I'm going is if you go the direction you're talking about, there's more than one way to do it. One way you might consider is in preparing for the interviews is have each board member submit a couple questions that they specifically are interested in to the chair and vice chair. Let the chair and vice chair then develop a list of questions that would be shared with every board member,
Right.
so that every board member knows going in what the starting point is.
Right, starting point.
And then obviously then in an interview, you're going to get in there and once you start asking questions, you ask follow-up questions and you seek clarification once somebody answers. So you would do that, but you would have a starting point of a certain number of questions that would cover topics that you say that you want to have covered in the conversation. And the board and chair vice chair could put that together, get it back out to the members, y'all could vet it to make sure that that's the questions you're
Okay.
interested in. And then when you get in there,
You're prepared.
what I would do, and then you assign each board member a question to ask. So, like, Tom might ask this question, Dr. Brooks asked that question. That way, it makes the candidates feel comfortable that every board member's involved in asking questions. And it makes sure then you get the questions answered that you want to get answered, rather than just, sometimes when you go with outside facilitators, you get questions that are more kind of
General.
Cherry-picked or-
General.
kind of statewide questions versus, I think probably if I know this board, y'all may want some more specific questions in
Probably.
context to our county.
And would those interviews take place here, or do they have to be off-site, or?
It can be whatever the board chooses
It's
to do.
happened in this room.
Right?
Okay. And would it just be us, or would we have our attorneys?
No, it'd
Yeah.
be the board and.
And the candidate.
And you would be in an executive session when you do the
Right.
interview, because, again, it's not public until you name a finalist. So
I got you.
you would be in here with the candidates in conversation.
Okay, I just wanted to understand that.
Back
I
up
saw
a
saying
minute.
that I was not on the board yet in 2000 when that superintendent was hired. But I think there's value in knowing people that you know, type thing. But sometimes they don't manage the way that they've been doing before you. They actually took over the reign of it. But I've also seen people that interviewed really well that turned out to be a total dud.
I agree with that.
So
You never
there's
know.
value in trying to seek somebody we know and feel comfortable with, but you don't want them just because you're comfortable with them. You
I agree
want
with
to feel
that.
like they're going to be impartial and do a great job, but you don't want to just go with somebody, hey, he had a great interview, and then he turns out to be a total.
We had a principal like that one time in Little Rock. Didn't work out too well for a year.
So I'm in favor of posting it internally.
Yes, sir?
Getting the three, I would like to see at least three candidates. I mean, two at the very minimum. But if it's just one, then I don't know about that. But post it internally, just see what we get, and then go from there.
Is that a motion? Barb?
Wait a minute. I got a question.
Got it? Okay.
Where do you post this? How do you advertise it?
On the
That's
website.
a good question.
I don't know.
Okay.
What we would do
Cart
is
for
we
the
would,
horse.
we would send out an internal
Okay.
notice, that the board is seeking applications internally for people interested. in
All
the
teachers, or all employees?
Staff.
All in,
All
yeah.
staff,
And then we
okay.
would post it on the site, the same site we post principal positions over, we
Okay.
would post that.
Do you do any kind of just like qualifications type thing, or do you just basically say, hey, do you want to be superintendent?
Well, no, no, that's a good question. I mean, what you would seek is for them to send you their qualifications. So y'all would want to view that before you
Even-
Decided to interview them or not?
So that would be sent in, just like they were an outside candidate, because they need to jump through those same kind of hoops of, laying out, here's my qualifications in writing, you can see it, then you bring them in, you have the conversation. So they would submit that. Probably what I would suggest is have them send it to me so I can get it on to them rather than sending it to HR, just the nature of this particular,
And if you
position.
had 10 people that put in for it, does the board decide which people they want
Which
to out of
which
that?
three?
Yeah.
So we'd have
Yes.
to have some type of a meeting or discussion.
And that would be
Decide.
executive session, I would take it. Decide, yeah,
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah, so, I mean, if we put it out there for, if y'all say put it out there for a week, or you put it out there, whatever y'all tell me to do, we would do that, we would collect, we'd see what we have, and then I would let the board know what's there, and then y'all can make a decision. If it's just two people, you just might bring both of those in. If it's one person, if it's three person, if it's 10 people, then y'all need to come together and decide who
Who the final
the
Yeah.
10 are.
So would you say, you send it out tomorrow, give them 7 days to respond, or how long do you give them?
That's up
10?
to us, I think.
I just say, I'll make a motion.
Go ahead, sir.
I'll make a motion that we post the job for the superintendency internally to Carroll County School System to have all interested people to apply by a week from this Friday. So it'd be like almost 2 weeks,
That's 10 days, basically.
basically.
I'll second that.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Before we vote, I'd like to ask if there's any other discussion to the motion. Hearing none, I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor, raise your right hand. and that's everyone. All right, any other discussion for today? So as the way I understand it, we'll get those, and then after that 10 days, we'll call another meeting.
Well, let's wait and see what we get, because depending on the number you get, you may not have to have a meeting. You may just be able to set up interviews. It just depends on what you get.
Okay,
But
but
to Bart's point, if you get several, you would need to have a meeting to vet it, determine, how many you
No,
want.
no offense, I don't think there's 7 qualified.
Yeah, but I'm just using
in
an
our
example.
system, but
Yeah.
Right, understand. Okay, any other business to be brought before the board? There's personnel, there's executive session, but Mr. Cowart doesn't have any unless we need to go back for executive session. Does anyone see a need to go to executive session?
No, but I do have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
We talked about that we're gonna, get these applications in. Who is gonna prepare what we're gonna look at to figure out what we want?
Here's what we're gonna do.
Okay.
We're gonna send out questionnaire to the, we're gonna send out a thing for the other board members to bring back questions for us. And then we're gonna redistribute that once we have them all compiled to make sure everyone's pleased with the questions that we're gonna start with. And then we'll divide that up in the interview, and from there, in the interviews, and from there, we'd have other questions. I think that's what we decided.
Okay.
But as far as preparing like a description of what we're looking for is what I'm asking about. Are we gonna have a job description?
Well, doing with the internal piece, you would not have to do
Right.
that initially. But if after the internal interviews that
If
you
they were
don't find the
unsuccessful.
person, then we would have to do something externally.
It just looks like we would have to have that before we even, so we know how to prepare our questions correctly. You don't
If
think?
you, what
I
I'm
don't think
thinking,
that
if
would
they are internal,
Okay.
just compile, or ask questions that's relevant to what you want as a superintendent.
Yeah.
You might want to say, if, this is just an example, what will inclusion look like to you? That's just one question. And if each of us do 3 questions, we may be able to scratch some out. But you said you wanted us each to provide 3 questions.
Yes, ma'am. I think that'd be great.
I think what happened was Mrs. Marsh was talking about who's going to compile what information we put on the posting as to what the qualifications and stuff are. My only concern is there any legal thing that if you don't put any requirements on it, then we don't have anything to quote cull anybody for?
I will speak to the attorney on the board's behalf and make sure whatever we put out will protect us from that, Mr. Captain.
Okay,
Very
That's a
good.
good point.
that's good. Very good.
Others? This is good stuff. Any board member comments then?
I make the motion we adjourn.
Have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, raise your right hand, and we'll consider ourselves adjourned. Everybody have a great rest of the week.